Lucasfilm has had an interesting ride in the last couple years concerning the fallout over Star Wars The Last Jedi, and last night The Mandalorian dropped its first episode, Chapter 1, and quite frankly, a lot of people really, really like it. Here we're going to be going through the episode, scene by scene, bit by bit, breaking it down while I provide my commentary for what I liked or what I necessarily didn't like, and what I think is going to be happening and setting up for the future to come. Please stick around to the end and add your theory to the comment section because, quite frankly, I can't wait to read it. So, The Mandalorian Chapter 1. First things first, it was so interesting seeing this pop up, the Disney Plus original logo. I was not quite prepared for it. It kind of feels like a whole new era is happening right before our eyes, and it was just kind of cool to see. Never mind the Lucasfilm Ltd logo not appearing in green, but appearing in what appears to be Beskar steel gray, which I thought was an interesting little design choice. Here we have the new updated Star Wars logo. What preceded it was a series of images, a montage of different characters with red and blue flashing over their faces. It's a little bit distracting. And it wouldn't translate well to still images, in my opinion, so that's why I didn't include it. But here we are, the opening shot, the Mandalorian on what appears to be a snowy planet, holding the fob and tracking down a bounty. Here he is walking towards a settlement. Again, these wide shots, we get to see a lot of establishing shots, giving us a good, solid look at the world around us. Even though it is all CG, it looks beautiful and it looks lived in, which is clearly what they were going for, and it just looks like we're going to be coming across something. From here, he goes into a bar where a couple men are hassling this blue guy here. We don't quite know why, but we're going to find out. So the Mandalorian enters, and everyone stops and looks, just like the old spaghetti western where the nameless, voiceless hero saunters into a saloon and commands everyone's attention, including this guy here who claims that he spilled his drink, which we all know didn't happen because it fell over before Mandalorian went into the bar. But obviously him and his goons, like the guy there with only one arm, they ain't gonna take anything. Standing down, they're going to want to pick a fight. So, of course, Mandalorian absolutely messes them all up, as we've seen in the trailer multiple times. Here, this guy tries to run away. He gets grabbed, pulled back in, fires off a shot at Mando, and Mando hits the door, and the door absolutely chops him in half with him sitting there with a badass pose. Just an absolute badass pose. I love it. But I also love that it didn't shy away from the violence. It actually had the guy get cut in half by the door. Yeah, we didn't see it, but that doesn't matter, to be fair. So from here, the guy is grateful. Oh, hey, thank you very much for saving me. Oh, here's some chits. Oh, what's this? A bounty puck? Is that me? Is that me? Oh, crap. And I love what Mando says here. He says, I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold. And he reaches for his gun. And this guy gets it. So they take off after that. We get the opening title card here. And here they are again, leaving the cantina. We see another wide shot giving us a bit more of the desolate nature of this currently unnamed planet. They seek passage from a ferryman here who uses a flute through his nose, and it's a very interesting. I mean, look at the design. Look at just the fact that this is practical effects. The costuming is amazing. The makeup is amazing. The aesthetics are amazing. This is Star Wars. This is what we're in for. He calls over a brand new speeder that is piloted by an astromech droid, and of course, Mando's like, nope. Don't want it. Don't trust droids. So we get a broken down speeder that is piloted by Brian Prashern, a very funny comedian who was absolutely ecstatic that he is now Star Wars canon. And that again makes fans like me very happy when other fans pop up in this that are friends of the director and the producers that get little cameo appearances. It's nice because they're happy, we're happy, and it all works out in the end. So they travel off, again, giving us a shot very similar to Luke and his speeder from A New Hope. And here he's searching for Ravanax, which we're going to see here in a second. He says it's dangerous to be on the ice because a lot of people by the port dump out their bathrooms, which basically attracts these Ravanax. Here we get the first real good shot of the Razor Crest. And it is an absolutely stunning ship. I love the design of it. I love the cannons up front. And I think we're going to be spending a lot of time in this ship with the show. And that's pretty great. It looks very small, but obviously it's exactly what Mando needs just to get the job done. From there, we watch as the taxi driver goes away and he gets eaten by a Ravenak, which of course freaks out and makes its way towards the Razor Crest. And we can see, look at the detail that went into this. Just the monster itself comes out of nowhere, grabs the landing gear of the Razor Crest, tries to take it down, tries to pull it down. Mando again, just look at the detail. It's like insane what they put into the show. Mando comes out, zaps it with his gun. It ends up letting go finally, and they take off. And just look at how dangerous and imposing and massive that creature is. And just, the inhospitable worlds, right? The hostility of the creatures on some of these planets are something I think we're going to get a lot of in this show, and that is pretty fantastic. Now, this particular scene, not everybody loved, but I actually loved quite a bit because I enjoyed the alien trying to just make small talk with the Mandalorian. I mean, Horatio Sands is the actor that's in the makeup there. He's in the blue guy, and he's really funny, but it's that uneasiness of the bounty and the bounty hunter, kind of like Midnight Run or even 3:10 to Yuma. It's that kind of, hey, let's talk, let's get to know each other sort of thing. Maybe we can work out a deal. And of course, he is scheming to get out of there. He asks to go use the bathroom, and we finally do get to see a bathroom in a Star Wars thing. So that's interesting. Not necessarily, but we do get a look at the fact that there are facilities on the ship, even though the ship isn't that big. As we see here, this is probably one half of the whole. This is not a very large ship, but of course, he's looking around trying to find anything he can, perhaps plot his escape. Hits some buttons here on this neat keypad for some reason, opens up the weaponry. Now, what I found to be fascinating about this was the fact that we see that there are a bunch of guns, different pistols, what appears to be almost like a blaster submachine gun right there. And then we what also kind of looks like a suicide vest or some kind of bomb device that's right there in the center. He then goes and he slaps it back. He's like, I'm not messing with this. I'm done. Maybe because he didn't want to draw attention to anything just yet. Or perhaps he was still hoping to maybe talk his way out of it. I think the motivations here for the character are kind of fascinating. Then he goes and takes a look around. He comes across a Rodian that is currently bound in or frozen in carbonite. And he goes like, oh, I was hoping to make it home by Life Day, but oh, darn. And then he sees this woman here. And I think at this point, by the time he sees this guy here, it really starts to kind of set on this guy that he's in for it. Like he is in. And of course, Mando grabs him, throws him in the carbonite freezing chamber, which is again, to me, is fascinating that they had that on Bespin in Cloud City for The Empire Strikes Back. But here he's got a portable one in his ship, which must just be a Mandalorian thing or a bounty hunter thing. But if that's the case, why didn't Boba Fett have it on Slave One in Empire? That's also a question to have. And then here we get that famous shot from the trailer of him also frozen in carbonite. And what I find to be fascinating is if you look, his mouth is open, it's slightly agape, his eyes are shut, and there's pools of carbonite that are pouring out of his mouth and right next to his eyes, showcasing that whatever happened, what he went through was not a painless experience, that is a very painful thing. And it's that little detail that kind of caught my eye because we've always looked at, frozen in carbonite as this one-time event in Star Wars, but here it's happening a lot. And I'd love to get some exploration of what it's like to be in frozen in carbonite from other people that have been in it, about everything, about the experience of it. I think that'd be very interesting for just character development. From there, we land on the planet. We're probably going to be spending the vast majority of the show. This is the city where Greef Karga is. I love the shot coming on in. We get to see a couple other ships there down at the bottom. The Razor Crest lands, and Mando takes off towards the cantina to meet up with Greef and then turn in the bounties. Some people have complained that this particular area, that this particular city looks sparsely populated. It doesn't look sparsely populated to me. I mean, how populated did they want it? I found that to be a very odd criticism, but I digress. Here he goes into a cantina. We see another Rodian right there. We also see on the very right a Transdoshian, and that's cool. We see a bunch of different alien types, mostly humanoid, but we see a lot of different alien types. Another shot of the Transdoshian. If I'm saying that right, I could be saying that wrong. But a lot of people saw these last night and were thinking, oh man, is Bosk going to make an appearance? He was referenced in Solo. Clearly at this point, he's probably still alive. We would love to see what happens to that, I think. Here we get Grief Karga, played wonderfully by Carl Weathers in a scene where he turns in the bounties, and all he can pay him is Imperial credits. And Mando says, "I thought the Imperial, the Empire is gone." And Grief goes, "Okay, I can pay you in these calamari credits, but I can only pay half." And it's kind of one of those, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush situations. Mando takes the money, I think reluctantly, but he also knows that this is a job and he's got to do as much as he can because he is currently trying to raise money for something. That's the interpretation I get, not just to get by. But I think we're going to find out more about that here in a second. From there, Grief offers up a very special job, a very special contract that is off the books. And these guys are guild members. He's the guild leader. And he's offering an off-the-books job, which I find to be very fascinating and also what feels like it's going to be a setup. I do feel that there is a setup or a double cross that's coming down the pipeline, and I feel that this is the first step in that. From there, Mando takes that, heads over to the location, gets greeted by the same kind of droid that we met in Return of the Jedi, which I love that. That was a great throwback, where he scans the chit, lets him in, and on the inside, we find stormtroopers. Now, keep in mind, 5 years past Return of the Jedi, the Empire has fallen. There are still remnants. This show takes place on the Outer Rims, probably near the unknown regions. And so there's always going to be people vying for power. But here we get to see him walk in, and it's a very uneasy scene. It's a very tense scene, a very tense moment as Mando walks into the room. And I love this because you could kind of see the stormtroopers attempting to stand their ground. Like you could kind of see that they were like, this guy could maybe mess us up. Of course, he's just looking like a badass all the way through. Here we get to meet Werner Herzog. I think at this point he's just known as the client, but he does have the Empire medallion around his neck. So there are questions. Was he a Moff? Is he a general? Is he a governor? Like, what is he? What's his role with the Empire? Considering that he still has all the stormtroopers around him, and he does have a supply of Beskar steel, you could easily assume that this guy is clearly connected, or was very connected, and is now trying to do something of which we don't know yet. But here comes in the Dr. I think Pershern, or Pershing. And he startles Mando, and Mando pulls out his guns, and they all pull out their guns on him. And, he says, like, hey, lower your blasters. And he tells them to lower theirs first. And the stormtrooper goes, I love this line, we got you outnumbered 4-1. And he just says right there, I'd like those odds. And of course, they make the deal. But what I like here, again, is just the attention to detail on the stormtroopers, right? The attention to detail on them. Look at the fact this 5 years, they're dirty, they're dinged up, they're scratched. The paint is peeling. They look very lived in. These are stormtroopers that did not have the glory of the Empire to fall back on. And this is just probably at this point, all they have, suits that are in almost disrepair, but they're trying to still hold on to whatever they previously had. Here we get to see the offer, which is basically a down payment. It's a little bit of Beskar steel with an Imperial logo on it, the promise of much more on the delivery of the item, of the thing, which we come to find out is a 50-year-old person. All they have are the last 4 digits of their birth year to tell them that it's 50 years old, and they have a tracking fob to their last known location. And this is where he accepts the job. But on the way out the door, the client makes a comment about Beskar steel going back with the Mandalorian, and that it's for the best, considering that, it's always good to restore the natural order of things after such disrepair. What he's referring to, in my opinion, there is the return of the Empire, or what would eventually become the First Order. So I think whatever he's doing is most likely to help the First Order, and he's just been on the Outer Rims near the unknown regions, maybe doing fact-finding missions or trying to help them out. And I think that's what we're going to discover as this whole thing progresses. But also it ties into the Mandalorian story. It ties into the Mandalorians in their homeworld and the Great Purge, as we hear about. So obviously he's trying to play to more or less, I could argue, like the nationalistic angle of perhaps Mandalorian and his culture. From there, we do get this final shot of a stormtrooper, again, kind of roughed up, dinged up, and I just really love the aesthetic of it. I think it looks great. Speaking of aesthetic, we have ourselves here a Cowican. Salacious B. Crumb is what I know him as. I sometimes get some of these names mixed up, but he's roasting over an open fire with a friend of his looking on, going, "Oh no, I'm next." And I honestly thought that was very kind of funny. In a very mean-spirited sort of way, considering the fact that what you have is like this guy watching his friend being roasted, and no one ever liked him from Return of the Jedi, so it's kind of apropos, so to speak. From here, Mando goes to an underground bunker. He does make sure that he's not being followed, and as we can see here, there are other Mandalorians. The children even have their helmets on. You can see other adults with their armor on. Right above the child there on the right, there is another Mandalorian that's in very similar armor to what Boba Fett wore. So that is interesting. Like, it's green and it's slightly red. You get a very brief shot of him, so I don't know just what's going on with that. But from here, we do get to see the logo, the crest of the Mandalorian, the Mythosaur skull, and it takes him to the armorer, which is a very interesting scene because he walks in and he sits down and he waits for her to come over, and she basically just waits for him to see what he's got. So he pulls out the Beskar steel and he pulls out all the money he made off the 4 bounties that he turned in. And she says, "Oh, this could be a pauldron." So she tells him what he's going to get. She tells him what she's going to make for him, which I thought was interesting because it wasn't him saying, "I need this piece of armor." It was her saying, "This is the kind of armor you're going to get." Now, that could be based on the fact that he only had so much Beskar steel, but she asks him here, "Do you know your signet yet?" And he says, "No, not yet." She says, "It will be revealed in due time," and that it's good that Beskar steel is back with the tribe. So I don't quite know what's going to be happening here, but it does feel like this is Mandalorian refugees, and that maybe not everybody has a tribe, or maybe not everybody has a crest or a home or something along those lines. It's kind of what they're maybe getting to, but we'll find out more as the series goes on. From here, she forges the pauldron, and then we get a flashback of him when he was a child and how he became a foundling. Now, she does say that with the excess from the pauldron, from the Beskar steel, that it would go to sponsor many foundlings. And he says, "That's good. I was once a foundling myself." So we don't know what exactly that means. But given the montage of stuff here, it almost appears like his parents were killed and he became an orphan. And that is maybe what a foundling is. So here is the completed pauldron that she has done very quickly. She has put this together very super quick, so she clearly knows what she's doing. From there, he leaves and heads to this desert planet, tracking the mysterious 50-year-old individual. I love this shot right here. Again, so many just wonderful shots showcasing not only the practical aesthetic of the ship, but getting to see the planet in the background. Here he's flying through what this reminds me of are like the Badlands of South Dakota. If you've ever seen those, it's very similar. He lands, walks out with his gun, the gun we all know from the Star Wars Holiday Special. And given the fact that Jon Favreau is a huge Holiday Special fan, it does make sense that the gun is going to be something that gets heavily used. Here he's looking through the scope, trying to see what might be out there. Comes across a blurg, which I just find to be very funny. And it just looks like something you would see in Star Wars. And then one great shot here. Again, this is like Dave Filoni's directing, these establishing shots, really showcasing the world, and the technology used to make that is very interesting. Gives you a very photorealistic surroundings that the actors are able to play in, and that's a lot of what we get here. From there, he's attacked by a blurg, tries using his flamethrower, doesn't work, gets taken down, but mysteriously, he gets saved when the blurg is tranked by a knockout dart, and a second one also gets hit by this Ugnaught here named Kui, voiced by Nick Nolte, who does an excellent job and has an excellent catchphrase, "I have spoken." That is going to be a meme. That is going to be something a lot of people like. And that is something, the 3 times I've watched this episode now, I laugh at every single time. From there, they head over to the Ugnauht's place, where he continues to tell him that other bounty hunters have come, other people have come for this individual, and that every single one of them has died, and that he has helped every single one of them. To which case Mando responds, maybe I don't want your help. Maybe I don't want you to help me because you might suck at this. But of course, Kui is very much, I'm helping you, man. I have spoken. I'm done. I've spoken. we're out. From there, he needs to learn how to ride a blurg. And this is kind of an interesting montage. It wasn't really one of my favorite parts of it. I know it's meant to be kind of funny, but because it was only like a 38-minute show, a lot was happening very fast. And I don't feel we really got a chance to breathe on this montage. It just really happened here. The blurg knocks him off. He goes over and complains to Kui about it. Kui says, aren't you a Mandalorian? You guys rode the mythosaur. You should be able to ride a blurg. What's wrong with you? Aren't you a real Mandalorian? Which clearly plays up the ego. So he comes over here, he tries it again, and succeeds, and off they go in search of this particular bounty. So they cross more of these badlands, and they get to the location. And from here, basically, Kui's like, all right, man, I'm out. Go take these guys out. Restore peace to the area, because ever since they've been here, it's just been not peaceful. So much has happened. Just get rid of these guys. You'll make quick work of them. You're a Mandalorian, and I have spoken, and I'm out. And from there, Mando overlooks the base. And what I love about this is, again, the aesthetic of just the design, as well as the callback to the old spaghetti Western of having a fort nestled deep into the mountains, protected on 3 out of 4 sides, where, you know, you're going to have a lot of cover from the mountains and whatever, and it's going to be very well hidden. So the question then becomes, how many people are there? Well, Mando decides to scope it out, and looking through, he sees a whole bunch of bad guys, all heavily armed. And then all of a sudden, his plans get a little bit derailed when IG-11 shows up just randomly, declaring that he's there for the bounty, and that due to guild rules, they have to turn it over. Of course, they don't listen, and he basically just, he takes a lot of them out. He takes an absolute lot of them out. So then Mando shows up, gets his attention. IG-11 shoots at him. Mando's like, hold on, I'm in the guild too. Why don't we work together on this? It's better than, we'll split the bounty, we'll split everything. And what I love here is this part where he goes, IG-11 goes, okay, I accept your conditions. However, I get the reputation credits. And when Mando's like, hold on, let's talk about this. Or let's talk about this later. IG-11 stops and just goes, no, I'm going to need an answer before we go any further. Very droid-like, very, very straight to the point, which I really loved. Just the chemistry between the two of them right here starts to kind of build. And, Mando is fully aware that there are a lot more guys, and IG-11 doesn't care. And so it's just this great little scene. Again, also look at the shot here. Just the framing of it. You have him on the left, IG-11 on the right, and then a couple bodies strewn in between. Again, just showing you kind of like the scale of what Filoni wanted us to see here. And then, of course, more stuff happens, and guys show up and they take cover. You can see here a lot of bad guys show up, and then they get pinned down. And this part was great, because as they get pinned down, as soon as he says we're pinned, IG-11 goes, okay, I'm going to initiate self-destruct because manufacturer protocol dictates I cannot be captured. And of course, that becomes a bit of a running gag, because Mando says, cover me. They go to try to open the door. This is where the bounty is. It doesn't quite work out. They get pinned down once again. IG-11 decides he can't wait. He's gonna self-destruct one more time, but they get pinned down again by this hover turret. Now, this hover turret is crazy, because they're screwed if they don't take this thing out. Because they jump around the corner to take everybody out, Butch and Sundance style. They see that it's the turret, and they go, oh crap, and they duck back behind it. They go, okay, no self-destruct. IG-11, cover me. IG-11 goes up there, takes a lot of fire. Mando comes out, takes the guy out, jumps on the hover turret, and just bam, 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 done. Everyone's down in this badass move where he's basically just jumps on it and spins around and just da 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 da. But just look at the sheer amount of corpses that are in this particular shot. There are a lot of them. And that just goes to show you how protected this particular bounty was. So what about this bounty is so protected? That's been my question the entire time. And they're still trying to figure out from this point, like whether or not IG-11 is injured. And this kind of plays in here in a second, where he says he took a blaster hit. It's pretty bad, but it didn't hit his central wiring. Because it didn't hit his central wiring, he'll be okay. So keep that in mind. They look at the door, realizing that they couldn't break in the one way. You can also now see the pillar, how shot up that was compared to where they were on the other side of it just a minute earlier. They decide to use the blaster cannon, which is still hot from it being used. You can see the red glowing on the barrel, to totally take out the door, kick it down, and walk on in, where they take out one more bad guy and use the fob to pinpoint exactly where the bounty is by tracking it, and it points him in this direction to that particular little covered ball, which is fascinating. I wonder what's inside there. Oh, it's a bassinet. Now, when I was watching this, I'm like, what the hell could potentially be in there? That's insane. What's in there? I have no idea. But we get this shot here, and you see those ears, and immediately, you know what it is. Any Star Wars fan worth their salt knows exactly what it is. The cutest damn thing I've ever seen in my entire life. All right. The Yoda is the cutest thing I've ever seen. Baby Yoda. We don't know the name of the species. I think like it's called the Wills. We don't know anything about the species. This is actually causing a bit of concern for some people simply because they don't know if they want to know this information. A lot of diehard Star Wars fans don't know if they want to know this information about this creature. Like Yoda's species has been bathed in mystery for nearly 40 years. Perhaps we should just leave it. But it looks a bit like Gizmo from Gremlins. It's just absolutely adorable. And if Disney markets this correctly, yeah, this is going to fly off store shelves. Anyway, IG-11 decides he wants to kill it because that is what his bounty called for, right? Mando says, no, we're going to take it in alive. IG-11 doesn't listen to him. Again, points the gun right at him. And Mando, you could see, is just kind of like conflicted, very conflicted with this. But as IG-11 moves to pull the trigger, Mando takes him out one shot to the head. Now, like I said, the central wiring wasn't in his head, so he should be ultimately fine, but it pulls him, just takes him out of the equation for right now. And we get this final shot of Mando looking at the baby and sticking his finger out and the baby putting its finger out. And again, what we learned about Mando is that he's a foundling. He's an orphan. This baby is 50 years old. He doesn't know anything about it, but he couldn't bring himself to let it die. But he also had the job to not let it die. So that's kind of a weird thing too. From there, we get the excellent, directed by Dave Filoni, written by Jon Favreau, complete with the kick-ass artwork. We also get based on Star Wars by George Lucas with more Mandos playing in different colored armor and playing a game. Now, this is something to pay attention to because we are going to learn a lot more about Mandalorian culture from this show. So there's going to be a lot of that, which I think we're going to probably get some information about Jango Fett or Boba Fett down the road. And that we also see here that they're the executive producers, which I like. And then at the very end here, not only is that a badass shot of Mando, but it's like the 5th card in, we get to see Kathleen Kennedy's name. So anyone out there who doesn't like Kathleen Kennedy, she's not even front billed on this, even though she allowed it to happen and she greenlit it to happen. And we get this amazing show because of Disney Plus and because of Bob Iger and because of her. She's not even taking any credit. So there's that. But The Mandalorian, first episode, chapter 1, very good. I've watched it 3 times now, and I just wanted to go through what I like about it, go through all the things I enjoyed, my breakdown, my thoughts on everything. What do you think? What is the whole deal? What do you think the client is up to? What do you think the doctor wants to do? I'm going to do a theories video as well, talking about that here coming up. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you're new here, please leave a like, potentially hit that subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. And if you want to get more Mandalorian coverage, have yourself a great day, guys, and peace out.